But don't you have it from yesterday? Oh yeah, there she is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe just try calling her, or with the camera.
Because I think the whole point of it is just learning the process.
I might bring my old but I've got a movie
I'm gonna hang up. I'm gonna hang up so that they're on yours.
Wrestling, yeah. Yeah, no, I do too. I do too. Yeah, I don't watch it anymore, but I spend a lot of time watching old British pro wrestling online and stuff like that. And there's one guy I like. His name is I'll remember it. Zack Sabre Jr.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable because he looks like what he does looks kind of like what I do. Yeah. So anyways, yeah.
Okay.
Great.
She's gonna go on and she's gonna ask
I'm
her.
more of a 91 WWF.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of like my world.
Well, I thought Kurt Angle was one of the best pro wrestling.
Okay, and then I guess
Yeah, he's got
Lane.
great skills. He's got, you know,
and I see somebody new
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Well, I know I heard saw an interview a few years ago.
I can still hear.
He's got like no feeling. His pinky is like numb. You know, like all the time. So he's getting bad nerve. But so many of those guys do. Like
I don't,
there's
but
a guy
maybe
Billy. I don't know if you know Billy Robinson.
Marcus.
He was really big.
Marcus, do you have any
really
Advil
good
or
wrestler.
anything?
And you see him in later years. I mean, walking on the team. His hips are just so away.
Is there a first aid? You don't have any like aspirins or Tylenol?
And then a lot of new hooked on.
We have the first aid.
We have a first aid kit. There might be a Tylenol.
Is it just on the shelf?
Yeah.
Like you see downstairs?
No, I was at the. I always go to the independent shows here.
Yeah, I've been to a few with my dad.
Oh, there they are. Okay, hi.
We had one like last week. It was awesome.
Okay, so do you guys have your stream muted?
They're really good. Scorpio?
Okay. Yeah.
He was actually.
Okay. Stream muted. Okay. Okay. So, can you see? Oh, my camera's not on, right? Can you see?
No, I can't see.
Oh, okay. I gotta just put the camera on. Hang. There you go. And is your name Jake or Josh? Jack. Okay, so we were all wrong. Okay, I feel vindicated at least. Okay, Jack. Jack. And is there someone new there with you guys?
Yes.
Oh, hey, Sean. Good, good. Okay, so, okay, everybody. Oh, hang on. I've just got to. I've got you on the. Now, okay, now you guys are on the big screen.
You want to see yourselves on the big screen?
Yeah. So,
Just muted.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, so that we can hear you guys, we're just gonna, if you guys can mute. So what we're gonna do right now before we go to the camera session is that we're gonna try to like form some groups and some projects. But what I think we need to do is, I think people should just have a very quick pitch of their film, because now I know everybody's been sort of talking to each other. They've been changing their ideas and whatnot. And so let's have like a quick round of people. And if you've got like a group already and a project that you want to work on, then let us know about it. And then the rest of us can, we can give suggestions or try to, match make with people. And Jack, your idea about the library, that's like such a cool one. So I don't know if you heard me earlier, but I said, there is a possibility that there might be somebody here who might want to work with you. And that could be, it's a little bit tricky, but it's all possible because you could still meet by Skype and exchange footage and stuff over the internet. So, So, okay, so, okay, so you want to go first, Ruth? Okay,
Sure.
okay.
All right, so, all right.
Oh,
so,
actually, you know what? So for these guys, can you come up to the,
Maybe like this way.
oh yeah, come over here, yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so then Sue Lookout can hear us.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, good?
yeah.
All right, so I like to make the most of every opportunity. So I expanded my egg idea to something that was not only fitting with the concept of our workshop, which is something reduction or harm reduction. Thank you. But it also helps our community here in Thunder Bay, because there is an organization here called Adult and Teen Challenge, and they are putting in a space for homeless women, okay, which there is no such in Thunder Bay, really. There's places, but anyway, this place here that they're putting in has a high success rate in other parts of Canada and other parts of the world. So that is kind of the impetus behind my enthusiasm. And what I'd really like to do is expand the egg idea in this way. All right, I have a person that is a funny person, and you know I like to write comedy, and plus people get motivated and are receptive to your message when they're laughing, right, first. So it kind of loosens them up and they listen. I wish I could tell a joke right now, but I don't want to take up the time. So instead, I'm just going to tell you that I have a person that's a First Nations person that is an attorney right now, okay? And he's 32 years old, I believe. But he started off as an addicted person, all right? And so in between being an addict and an attorney, he had a spiritual experience that transformed his life. So this is the story I want to tell. And where the egg comes in is, instead of him just being a talking head, he will say, "This is me, I am this egg." And then we can animate the egg, and the egg can do all kind of funny stuff. And the story is about the egg, but it's really about him. So that's the idea. And I think I can do this in 7 minutes. But I was told by somebody that that's really long. But they said we were going to shoot all day, so I figured I'd have plenty of stuff. Anyway, you said it would be really long, but I don't know how long these things are supposed to be. But that's my pitch. I'm a writer. I don't even know how to use the camera. So I don't know anything else other than the writing. I don't know how to do the animation. I don't know how to do anything. I know how to order stuff, but that's about it.
Okay, excellent, yeah.
Thank you.
Most important thing, you have an idea, and it's concrete. And, okay. Okay, so let's, who else wants to, and I think we should go up here. Nathan, you've got a good idea, so why don't you go up there and,
Here, okay, there's a little X on the ground.
yeah, no, because you're talking so that people in Sioux Lookout can
Okay, so
can
should I go
hear you.
closer to the mic?
No, it's not the mic, it's the computer is the mic.
Oh, yeah. Okay, excellent.
yeah.
So, the idea I was thinking about, I mentioned it yesterday, it would be sort of, in my case, a little bit autobiographical, but I've been involved in wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 22 years at least, and into my 40s, having to deal with injuries and things like that, but still wanting to continue to do that. And there's a lot of other guys that are in my sort of age cohort or older, into their 50s. And the idea was sort of, going into the local Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community, talking about ideas of, is this sort of worth it? Why do you continue to do this, despite the fact that you continue to hurt yourself? You're always dealing with nagging injuries and things of that nature. Maybe even talking a little bit to some of the younger guys, and some of them have already suffered injuries, but guys coming up. So one idea was looking at the notion of, coming to grips with that, and physical decline, and still wanting to actually participate in this sport. Why do people do it? What's the meaning behind it for them? What got them into it? And for some of the younger guys, what are their perspectives? Probably only a few minutes long, something like 3, 4, 5 minutes long. Probably getting some action shots, and the sport will lend itself to that. Adding some animation, and probably some interviews. And that would basically be it. Quick to the point, asking some pointed questions, and that's it. The aging kind of grapplers.
Aging grapplers. That's a good title.
We're thinking some like. So that's
Okay.
basically it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So how about Arlene?
Okay, I guess you want me to come up there.
Yeah.
I had a couple of ideas, actually.
Okay.
So, one of them, I kind of gave the idea yesterday with the framing of the little stuffed animals, and one of the animals gets a needle in the toe. People empathize, this poor thing, but then it ends with a shot of real life, and this could happen to you, or could happen to a child, something like that. Now, on the other hand, thinking about and being inspired by animation today and things, and just the app I have on my phone with the talking pet, that I can make anything talk. So, for harm reduction, why not make this melon have all kinds of advice? I've got this melon, it's a watermelon that's carved to look like a minion, so I can make it talk. So why can't it say, stay hydrated, drink lots of water, slap on a hat, slap on sunscreen. So that might be something that I can do for harm reduction that I believe is manageable, that I can accomplish within this time frame. So those are kind of what I'm thinking of. I have the little creatures that we can take the photographs, or I have the app that I could use.
Well, so this app is something you've downloaded?
Yeah, I paid $1.19 for it, and it's on my iPhone.
Would you be more interested in maybe just taking a picture of a watermelon and then creating that animation?
That's what I did. I took the picture of this carved watermelon.
Okay, and then they juxtapose the mouth and stuff on it or something?
Within the app, you do a dot on the eyes and the mouth and the chin and the head, and then it moves that still image to make it look like it's alive. It's kind of creepy, but
What's that app called? Do you remember?
Talking Pet.
Talking Pet.
Yeah.
Okay, that is hilarious. I think
Yeah.
we should experiment with it.
Yeah, so like, even if you do like dogs and cats and you make them swear and stuff, like drop the F-bomb, it's lots of fun.
Yeah.
But you can't post that. For kids, look. But
Well,
those are
just remember
my ideas.
Garfield. Garfield has entertained.
Yeah. So, and I've done it with some of my own illustrations, like a bottle of pop and a French fry. Well, it's Guy, the French fry, and so, make him talk like that, or, yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing, Arlene, you can draw.
Yeah.
You're a visual artist too.
Yeah, so if anybody wants some quick sketches and stuff, I can do that, and, yeah, no problem, be happy to do that. I can bring my art supplies
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. Anybody else? How about Zafar?
Sure.
Two sentences.
Two sentences, yeah. Yesterday it went long. The idea is the broad, but I have to narrow it down, and it again something that I'm very passionate about. And the question that I would ask is that is the current skill set given to the students would guarantee them a job when they go out in the market 10 years from now? Because I think that's something crucial. And if I have to pitch that idea, I will try to use some examples from the internet. Like if you are, let's say, learning a typewriter skill, and you go out in the market, typewriters are gone, right? If you're preparing for, let's say, winter, and you get prepared and the winter is gone. So something of that nature. So if I could just relate that whatever you're doing, by the time you get it done, it will not be there. So something, if I am able to show that, and the concept would, the philosophy behind that would be just awareness, because I think that's a problem. that if you are not aware, and if the question doesn't exist, if the problem is not recognized, then you will not, understanding the problem and recognizing that the problem exists is half the job. So I think awareness, the concept would be awareness of that issue, which I think
I think you could come up with some very funny
yeah,
little
some-
scenarios.
yeah, and the philosophy of it would be just simple awareness, you know. People like, you know, the history is the Socratic questions, you know. Socrates, you know, the philosopher used to ask these questions, why, you know. So if I could make it funny, small, if it could help increase awareness, I think that would be something that I would like to do.
I don't know if it's exactly the same, but kind of an example of that. Like my father went to various like arts colleges his dream was to draw for comics one day. But by the time he had kind of finished going after that, because he was actually just drawing. When he grew up with comics, everyone was actually drawing comics, and by the time he was kind of done with college, everyone was doing like computerized like graphics.
Yes.
So it like the way of just drawing comics kind of was thrown by the wayside.
Absolutely. And
it was a skill set that he just didn't
absolutely.
have, right?
I think the history is filled with the examples of such examples. But I think the problem is much more in future, because that skill set is exponentially going to change, you know. And I think it needs awareness, because I talked to different schools, you know. I went with Riaz to some school, you know. I talked to the principal. What was the name of that school? Anyway, so talk to different people, and I think the policy makers have. I was talking to him. He's a sociologist about it, you know. And I think the problem is that people may understand it, who is at the policy level, who have understanding of all this, but nobody is doing that much about it. And I think if policymakers are not doing it, at least we have an awareness about it. I think I need to cut it short.
Okay. Well, let's put Sue Lookout on the hot spot. We'll turn you up. Okay. So, do you want to introduce yourself? And we could, yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
I was enjoying listening to everybody's ideas. Do you
No, she's asking you for an intro.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So my name's Sean. Sean McNair. I'm from Sioux Lookout. And I'm not too sure if you guys know who Nadine is.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do. We know her very well.
Oh, yeah. She told me to get involved with this project. So, yeah, she told me about the times and the schedules. But unfortunately, you know, I have other work that I have commitments to, so I wasn't able to make it yesterday. But just kind of getting a quick run around of what's going on with this project as of right now, and it sounds pretty interesting. So I only had a few questions about what it was, but everyone here seemed to, you know, bring me up to speed. So it seems pretty straightforward. Now, for the ideas for this documentary, PSA, or whatever, were you thinking of like topics relevant to growing up in Northwestern Ontario, or just being here, or what's the mission?
Well, we have this workshop has a theme, and the theme was harm reduction, but there's nothing. No one is obliged to do something on theme. It was just a starting point, and also because Greg Scott, who is our mentor, who was sort of more on the hot seat yesterday. But you're going to hear some more from him later, especially when we're talking about cameras. But oops, sorry, I just unplugged you. Okay, now you're back on. Now you're back on the screen. Okay, so anyway, so he's done a lot of work in that area, not exclusively, but like quite a bit of films and work in that theme. And there's some other folks here also who are interested in that. So, so what we're doing now is we're trying to, anyone else who's like got a great idea, and we're trying to form our teams. So yesterday, Lane and Jack, well, Jack had a really great idea. So
Lane's idea.
Over here,
yeah. So he's hiding.
I said Lane's idea.
Okay. Well, whatever. So, but okay. So, do you guys have you talked about it, and do you want to I don't know, Sean, if you've got an idea that you want to convince these guys to help you with, or, because what we're doing is we're forming teams.
Yeah.
And so if you want to pitch your idea, and then if there's someone here who might want to join your team virtually, that's also a possibility. Or if you want to join someone's team here virtually,
yeah,
that's also a possibility, right? So any way you want to contribute.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we want to put you guys on the hot seat, and if you've got a couple of ideas, or we can come back to you in a few minutes.
Well, yeah, I guess just from listening from what people had to say, you were saying something about the library, right?
Yeah. What we basically were talking about, which was brought up, was the library being the last vestige of society. And Elaine and I, we talked about it yesterday, that's, you know, something that we would focus on, or at least do, was the library, and how it's kind of been I don't know how to put it in words, but
a sanctuary?
Pardon?
Like you had mentioned the word like sanctuary or refuge.
Yes. Yes. It's that was definitely brought up. I feel like I'm getting tongue-tied.
Yeah.
Nervous on Skype.
Anyway, but are if you see yourselves, you guys are on like a giant screen. So
yeah, I know. It's like,
we're kind of on our own right now. Lane
yeah, there was some chick in here, and she just like, I'm not feeling so well, so she's gonna go. I'm like, okay, I've never been in this room. But yeah, I was more just kind of on the project as a whole. I didn't know we were actually supposed to, like, we were able to contribute ideas and stuff. But one quick one I had, actually, I've been working with a bunch of young, like, artists in the area. Like, you know, they make music and they want to have someone, you know, kind of just create images for them or make a video with them. And, you know, just being kind of exposed to that, you kind of see like, oh wow, there's actually a lot more than just underneath the skin. Because I mean, with social media and stuff, a lot of kids, you know, they don't interact the same way. Like growing up, you saw the garage bands and stuff because you guys would be putting it out there constantly and you'd interact with them in different ways. But with social media coming out, it seems that, you know, if you've got a passion with music or something, it's not as, it's not in the open for everyone to see as much as it once was, especially up here, I find. You know, I have friends who are in bands, and I don't find out until they put out this little poster on one, like, corner or something, and, oh, you're in a band. But, like, the exposure there, you know, I was able to go to these guys' place, like houses or whatever it may be, and some of them come from, you know, not the most ideal home setups and family life, but this common kind of theme of music and like the connection the bonds they create in this music, because you know, they sit down in a room for about an hour and a half each night of the week, and they, you know, they're not talking about anything else but music, and they're focused, and they're, you know, it brings out a different side of them. I thought that was really inspiring and really motivating, actually, to see in young people. Like, these are kids, and, you know, rather than their like, you know, joining their peers and going out and getting into trouble, they're, you know, they're trying to make something of their time, and I thought that was really cool. And I have footage on the camera, and just seeing how they, you know, they're interacting and they're talking in different ways. But it reminds me of that old documentary I saw by D.A. Penbacker. It was on Bob Dylan, and it just really reminded me of, like, that whole behind the scenes, like that really raw and authentic kind of, you're seeing their character come through, because they're not putting on this facade of, I got to be someone different, so I don't get, you know, pointed out or whatever it may be, like excluded, right? They want to be different because they're creating something. So I thought that was really cool. And, you know, if that's a relevant theme and if that's something that people wanted to work on, I guess this would be a cool thing to start. But I've already been starting something on my own about it. So.
Okay, well, the purpose of this workshop is to like hook people up, connect people up, and so that you can, work together and learn a few hands-on skills. So like the last session on animation, it wasn't like how to do it, but it was like, these are kind of things that you can do. And then the idea is to get a little project together and then learn whatever you can on that particular project. So it's really great that there's like a few of you there to, it's just fun, like, and doing something kind of bite size. But it doesn't have to be something that has to be completely finished at the end of this weekend. But if it can be small enough and focused enough so that it can be almost done by the weekend, that's ideal. Because we've done this workshop a few times, and we find that often if we don't try to aim at finishing it in a very short time and make it a small enough project, it sometimes never gets done. And the most successful workshops that we've had are ones where we said, you got to have it done Sunday and you got to show it. Then, of course, you can fix it up and make it a little bit better. But it's the whole kind of intense process. And Greg and I were talking about that we did this, both of us experienced this thing. It was called International Doc Challenge. And it's where you had to make a documentary in 5 days. And you were competing with everybody around the world. We're making these documentaries, and they assigned you like a theme and something else. But it was just like a genre. And it was so cool because you just had to like work really hard, pick an idea that you could all kind of agree on, and then just go with it. And divide up the labor, do whatever the inspiration, because half the time, it's the actual doing it, the process is the thing that you learn most about. So that's why we wanted to keep these like hands-on, like these sort of practical workshops as just sort of advisory or whatever, but when you're actually making your small project, you're gonna learn way more than listening to us.
Yeah, and it's also this idea of having limited resources, if it's in terms of time or in terms of equipment or in terms of money, that studies have found that you become very creative if it's something, the resources are limited. So in this case, we have limited time. So,
right.
And it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you would come up with some creative way of finishing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and like it's interesting that you talk about like the garage bands and that, because we got a band right here. we got 3 guys in a band who are like getting the band together, and an artist that's working with them. So anyway, so do you guys have? Is there someone over there that has an idea?
We actually kind of ended up teaming up with Nathan.
Okay.
Anybody else?
But
Okay.
we've got skills that we could potentially lend to other projects, like kind of peripherally.
Okay, so how about Sandy? Did you want to come up and pitch your poem? And Keegan, do you have or are you gonna go join a team?
I'm gonna go join a team. Me and Robin had an idea. I have an idea for a 1-minute animation.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you come up and talk about it? Yeah. Okay.
Well,
and then
then
Sandy will come. Okay.
come
Okay. Well, Sandy, you come first.
With the guys in Sioux Lookout, a thought I had too was, with the idea of the young kids and the bands and, this alternative lifestyle. It's an alternative to harm. So I just see the word harm reduction, ? And then the answer is passion. And so you could just have the different shots of these passionate young people with their art form and just simple graphics. Harm reduction, passion. Harm reduction, passion. And then just show these young people, and it's almost like uplifting them too by showing their passion you know, it's an alternative, it rocks your world, kind of thing. But that's what my
Okay,
mind's
no,
nice
see,
now, but
that's good, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Sandy? Oh, sorry. Come on up. Put you in the hot seat.
Well, I heard it's about addictions, and so I wrote a poem a while ago about addictions, about being in denial about being addicted. And last year, well, not last year, year before, when we did Docs North, I wrote a poem and we shot it. It was Let Winds Blow Through You. It was a guided imagery poem. But I'm not sure, you know, I could read a bit of it and see if you can visualize how to do it. I thought of your egg idea, but I don't know if that would work. But anyway, I mean, just to put it together, but anyway. I could read you some of it or all of it. It's not that long, really. Anyway, he had a carefree childhood, made castles in the sand, dreamed he could do anything. He was the leader of the band. He reached the social threshold, never learned to say no. Dazzled by his surroundings, he followed and let go. He trusted those around him, gave him drugs with an open door. He believed they were his friends. They took everything and he wanted more. They baited the trap. He thought he was smarter, could avoid getting caught until he became their prisoner. This journey took him deeper until he could think no more, creating his dependency. He didn't realize the score. When anyone questioned him, "I'm not addicted," he replied. "This is just the party I missed, making up for lost time." Time goes on, friends die from drugs laced with poisons. Overdose and disease, he's still in denial. "I'm not addicted," he says. "I can find my way. You'll see. I don't need to go away. Give me money and I'll be free." Anyway, that's the...
Yeah, yeah.
So, anyway, I guess more or less, you know, it's images, you know, to go with the verses, you know, and that's what we did last time with it, but an entirely different type of poem, of course, but
and wasn't it, and you had music, right? Didn't
music, yeah.
Did
Adrian.
Clarence, or did you do the music, or?
Yeah,
Clarence wrote the music to those lyrics, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Adrian was acting in it.
Yeah.
And also we had two actors, and yeah.
Keegan did
Yeah.
you did the shooting, right?
Yeah.
Some shooting,
Yeah.
and I did the editing.
Yeah.
And Brad did a lot of shooting as well.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it was a really good
yeah.
film.
Actually, it got
Brilliant.
outstanding merit in the Doctors Without Borders, Docs Without Borders. So it did quite well, actually. Anyway, it was a short 5-minute video, documentaries. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway,
Yeah.
that's it. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, and is there anybody else? Shirley, you came in late, but what we're doing is our final pitch is to try to make our teams. Did you have an idea that, or you're gonna join a team?
I'll join the team this time.
Okay. Dale, did you have something
Not
that you
really, no.
thought of?
I'm really interested by Nathan's idea though, because I'm super into wrestling.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was once part of MMA in grade 4 and that type of stuff, so maybe we could do something.
Which gym did you train?
It was just through my school.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Oh yeah, Robin, get up there for your animation idea.
So yesterday I kind of had an idea for some kind of animation that was just like a quick and simple thing about the kind of balance and opposition between passion and grit, sort of the need or the what to do what you feel you need to do versus doing what you love to do. What's your passion? But I didn't really know how to kind of make that work. I was thinking like a spy versus spy type thing, or like a Street Fighter fight or something. But that was just funny that you mentioned Charlie Brown, because I was thinking Charlie Brown would work really well for it. And then so I kind of came up with an idea to do like Lucy and Pigpen. So Lucy would be passion and Pigpen would be grit. And then they have some kind of a homework project to get done. And Lucy has this brilliant idea, but she refuses to work because she's trying to clean up behind Pigpen, and he's trying to get her to do the work. And then Charlie Brown walks in and says, you know, his good grief or something like that. And she just kind of has an aha moment, and she says, okay, let's just get to work. And then everybody kind of starts to work together, because that's the thing about grit and passion. Ultimately, they are constantly battling each other within yourself, and but ultimately they're working towards the same goal. So I guess that's the point. But it's kind of abstract, like it was kind of an abstract concept. So I think this is sort of a cute way to make it work.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So so Keegan kind of liked it. So he's gonna do the animation for it. But
Okay.
we would need somebody to draw the characters, if somebody was interested. So.
Arlene is good at drawing.
Yeah.
Does it have to be Charlie Brown characters, or, you know?
Not really. I mean, really, like it was, like I said, it was
Create your
just,
own.
yeah, like it was more just an abstract concept. And yesterday, just kind of put it to a group of characters that are known, right? That are well known to people that they can kind of relate to. That kind of brings them in. But yeah, it could be very artistic and abstract, or it could be very simple and relatable.
Yeah, certainly could draw the characters, but then disconnect them, right? The head, the arms, the body, and then how to put them in movement.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
So we certainly, certainly could do that.
And Keegan he's made quite a few animations recently. So, okay, wonderful. Okay, so now, okay, let's let's let things percolate. But by the end of the evening, like, everybody can't work on one, right? So do people have, anyway, maybe we'll talk a little bit about camera, and then we can,
There's one more idea too.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, go up.
It's not decided yet.
Right.
But we agreed on what kind of treatment it
Go close to the computer,
computer.
there, because so
Yeah.
these guys can hear
Here,
you. But
this one.
see that computer? Yeah.
Okay, so the idea, the story hasn't been thought yet, but like it's something of a project with stop animation. So we'll make a short 5-6 minute, maybe 10 minutes stop motion film, and basically, yeah, that's it.
Right now we are thinking about it's going to be a dinner table, and then the utensils and stuff, they won't be friends with each other, so those kind of stuff, and then we'll see how they become friends.
And you would do it with a still camera?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I guess I think we should just start our camera session, and then hopefully by the end of the night, we can have like a little break in a bit, and then let's just try to, we'll just say, okay, this corner is this person, this person, this person, and then we'll just see how it all works out. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna just, I was gonna go and get my camera, or here, I will use this camera first. And, you got your camera. And then, Sue, look out, maybe you can now mute, or I mean, you can now listen back on the
stream.
On the stream.
Yeah.
That's too bad that I should have this so that it's plugged. It'd be good if we had a camera that was
You have an HDMI out on that, don't you?
yeah.
I think it's a-
No, it's I have the USB camera thing. I think I can.
You don't have HDMI?
It should be a HDMI and HDMI out.
Yeah, maybe it's a mini HDMI. Yeah.
Which will feed straight into a monitor.
Oh, yeah. Okay, oh, can you mute this, Riaz's thing?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Well, I think it's like, a lot of guys still do it despite like injuries, like, okay, so.
Oh, yeah.
To show you.
So we can just, we'll close this Skype. I'm just gonna hang up
Well, that's where I,
for now, and, cause I can Skype over on that one, yeah. Okay. Okay, so, we've got quite a few people here who are, camera and photographers and, Riaz, can you bring my blue backpack down when you come and
yeah, so.
or anyway, I'll run up and get my stuff. Actually, I'm just, would you mind, Greg?
So
Just
for
talking
example,
a little bit about what you've been using for shooting.
like it's just this scene. So here's what the scene is. You know, the structure.
Okay,
So
great.
it's me with my knee in a shot. Right, this guy here has the injuries, get foot props. This guy.
Okay, and then I'll put the,
So you just wanted your bags from up there?
Blood clot is just key. Torn biceps.
Is this last
neck.
Oh,
Yeah.
you want your bags with stuff?
oh,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah,
get
oh,
them.
yeah.
Greg's gonna talk a
No,
little
no,
bit
no,
about
super good boxes.
what cameras he uses and how he uses cameras.
He's a that's the whole group, right? He's avoided a lot of travel, back problems, things like that. So all this stuff.
All right, so
Through all the old guys.
yeah, you want to just put that there? Yeah, Kelly asked me to talk about camera gear that I use. The cam. I'm just gonna follow your lead. I have a pretty privileged position where I have a fairly decent inventory of cameras, most of which are not even my own personal cameras. They belong to the university because I run a film lab. So I'm in a position where I can choose a camera depending on the job that I want to do with that camera and what kind of piece I'm going for. Probably my trustiest, most, kind of utilitarian, utility infielder sort of camera is a bigger version of the one that's on this tripod over here. It's a Canon XF100, and I use it for a lot of handheld work. It's very portable, it's compact, it has good image stabilization and good audio with XLR, like professional audio inputs. And that's for me, generally speaking, I'm gonna work almost always with a dedicated video camera as opposed to shooting with a DSLR, which is not really designed first and foremost to capture motion images and typically will have a pretty poor audio input quality. So I'm almost always going to be using as a primary camera a dedicated motion picture camera, not a DSLR. But I will use like a second camera, like a DSLR on a tripod for static shots Like if I'm shooting an interview or something, I shoot it straight on and have a DSLR perpendicular to that if I don't have another camera person to work with me. So, but I think that I've shot, I'm working on this film about making a pilgrimage across Spain, which I did last summer. And so we walked 500 miles, which meant having to have a very slim and low profile inventory of camera gear. So for that, I actually I used a Ricoh. I did shoot with a DSLR in 4K. So this camera generates beautiful imagery, 4K imagery, but it has terrible optical stabilization. So it's not something that you can use handheld because it doesn't have the usual camera shake that you'll see with a dedicated video camera. It's like a real stuttery camera shake, which is awful, particularly in 4K because you see everything so much more clearly. But it's, generally speaking, pretty good, especially if it's stabilized. And I think that I also had like GoPros and Sony NEX VG and a Sony AX100, which was another 4K, all very small form factors, very portable because we just basically carried the gear in our backpacks, which meant that we could, I went with my son and he helped me. He's 20 years old, he's an artist, and he helped to carry gear, but we could each only have 2 outfits for 40 days because all the rest of it was camera gear. So I think, generally I try to go with a dedicated video camera. I think if you're using a DSLR, it's important to figure out how to stabilize that unit so that the imagery isn't just completely nauseating. And there are some really cool stabilizers out there. If you're going to use a DSLR, there's a Scorpion. And that's actually my favorite stabilizer right now. You can get it for about $15 or $20, and it's just a plastic scorpion-shaped unit, and it mounts the camera in the kind of U of the Scorpion, and you can hold it up here, you can hold it here, you can do nice pans with it. So that's my single favorite stabilizer right now. I have shoulder stabilizers and tripods and all these other things. I don't do a ton of tripod shooting, but that Scorpion is a really cool piece of gear to have. And you can also get it for your iPhone or your smartphone, so you can mount that to it. So smooth imagery. Good audio is really important. I have a variety of external audio recorders, some of which accept inputs from like lavalier microphones like these, body mics. But we're going to talk about audio, I think, or sound tomorrow night. But I think it's all what you do with the camera. I don't think the gear matters much. Has anybody seen Tangerine? It's a wonderful Hollywood film shot entirely on an iPhone 5, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not a big proponent of gear talk. I certainly am obsessed with gear. I have so many different cameras, and each one has its own purpose. I still shoot on tape, on VHS, like shooting on VHS. I have like 4 VHS cameras from the 80s. So, and sometimes 16 millimeter. But it really depends on the job that I want the camera to do. And then the question is what's the aesthetic of that? What are we going for? What kind of a piece is it? And how much motion is there going to be? Is this going to be a primarily handheld job? Is it going to be a kind of, static shot on sticks, mostly tripod kind of shooting? And the kind of emotional core of the film is, I think, what determines, or at least sets me on a course to figure out which camera I want to use. There's a really wonderful film made by some students that I mentored at University of Southern California, and it's this sort of film about these 2 boys who would, ostensibly be delinquent boys, or maybe just sort of categorized as delinquent boys in Southern California. It's just really their daily life over summer break. I think they were leaving middle school, going into upper division high school. And it's a very intimate film, but the students chose to shoot it entirely on tripod in all static, all wide shots. And it had the result of really distancing the viewer from the emotional core of the film itself. And I think that was a huge mistake, which I told them. That was a huge mistake. It's beautiful, but I feel very remote, and that's just one of the things that you kind of have to contend with. What kind of feeling are you going for? Because film has a particular way of communicating emotional valence, that, other mediums don't have. And that's largely because things are happening on a timeline, capturing motion, which are, I think, the two principal in synced sound. Those would be the three principal considerations for whether you're going to use film or some other medium. So then I think it's all about shot composition and what you do with the camera and angle, focal length. Are you close in? Are you medium? Are you wide? From what angle are you shooting? How are you composing the shot? All the basic principles of shot composition apply, whether it's photography or videography. I don't know what else to say about that, but.
Yeah. Well, I'll just, and we'll riff on this.
Okay.
Because I come from the same kind of view, is that, first of all, I first started shooting with a home movie camera, 8mm movie camera, and that's off for now. And then back in the day, I worked at a TV station, and then I had access to they were still filming news on 16mm, and I wanted to learn that, and I was also working in studio camera, and then I wanted to do news camera, and then they sort of didn't let me, and they made me be sound recordist and lugging around the big recorder, which was what you record the video onto, and but the minute that the 8mm home video camera came out, that was fantastic. So I got the first one, and the first stories I wanted to tell were my family stories. So I made a video about my grandmother because she was for her 90th birthday, and those are still my favorite films. I made a film for my mom for her 50th birthday, and so that little video camera, and I joined a group in Saskatoon one year. We were living there, and we made we decided we were going to do handycam activism. So we all had these cheap cameras, and then we could run out and we could film anything. Before, when I worked at the TV station, or if you joined a video or film co-op, it would be $80,000 for a camera. And then my little Handycam that I got, Sony, it was only, it was $800. But I started making actual documentaries and doing research with it, and you could do stop motion. The first thing I did was teach my kids how to do stop motion animation with their Lego. Kept them busy for hours, and it was just really, really fun. So I always approached camera as I just sort of thought of myself as a, not a photographer, not a, I was a video handycam home movie kind of person, and then when I made my first big documentary, then I hired a cinematographer and learned from that. But then I just kept shooting and shooting and shooting, and so every couple of years there'd be a new camera. So now you guys have the camera on my cell phone is so much better than my little Hi8 video camera. But but the more that I shot with that camera, and the better I sort of got at being able to insert myself in places where people just quit noticing that you had a camera. So then you get to capture things in the most natural way, and that's where you get these moments that are really incredible, or where people open up to you and they're just sort of oblivious. And now today it's like the exponential thing that people are videotaping everything, and nobody before, you had to be so careful. You had to put up signs, we're filming. You had to get permission slips, because if you're going to do something that's going to go on TV, lawyers would get involved, and they're like, no, this guy walked in the background, it could be a big court case. They can't be. Now, does anyone care about that? No, everything's going on YouTube. You can film anything, and so if the cops are beating up a guy, everybody's videotaping it, right? And so just to go back to the whole aesthetic of filming, or like what gear that I would use, it would be like the best gear I could afford at the time. And I love tape because tape was, you film it on tape and it's solid. Like, I never really had a tape fail, and then I would digitize it once we could start doing digital editing. Then nowadays, everything is on a card, right? So on a flash card, and like that's a huge thing, is how you're capturing your material. And you can, at one of our docks north, the person, had their camera. They went out and filmed a bunch of stuff. They put it in the computer. The computer died. So, and I had an experience like that when we first started working with the camera that was digital. The media management, so went out, like, got all this great footage of this concert footage, and I was literally digitizing it onto hard drive, and then we wiped the card, reuse it, film again, and we realized we had to transfer it to another hard drive for safety, but that hard drive that we had originally transferred to, there was a brownout. Toronto was using too much power, and we lost that hard drive. There was about 8 hours of footage on that. We did send the hard drive, and we spent $8,000. I didn't, the guy who wanted to invest in this thing, to get that media back. But anyway, so that is the sad thing about these cameras, and even your cell phone, you can, you get it, but then you have to always think in advance how you're going to preserve this material, because it takes so nothing to go out and shoot something nowadays, right? You can just grab your camera, and then you tend to, when you have a camera like this, and you got a 64 gig flash card in there, you can just shoot for hours and hours, and then you could transfer it, and you have so much footage. And you have to, it's exhausting worrying about that media. So anyway, not to try to lose focus, but those are the first things that you have to think about. Is it's still worthwhile planning what you're going to shoot before you just pick up your phone and start filming. And you'll notice this is what everyone does. They do this. Who watches TV that is like this? Hardly anyone. Although now lots of people, because it's going directly on their phone, they have that new format, right? So this is portrait mode, but what we watch on our screens is, a landscape mode. So that's just the basic idea of how you're going to fill your screen with an image. And also, it's great to be able to have your phone with you. No matter what, you see something cool, you can start videotaping it. And lots of times, for me, and that's such an old expression, you start recording it digitally. And so it's good to be able to catch those moments, but it's 100 times better to plan out and do the research, get to know, maybe use your camera if you want, just for gathering up some information. But most of the time, it's kind of like a relationship killer, because you have a hard time, like what Greg said yesterday, if he was just focusing on the frame that the camera is showing, and he's not aware of the other thing, and he's not going to be able to really make a relationship with the people that you're filming. So those are just a couple of the things. Now, you can beg, borrow, steal. Well, I wouldn't recommend stealing, but any kind of a camera I used to be only, especially for documentaries, I lugged around a big video camera, and I liked the video camera just for a lot of reasons, because it always had like a really great zoom lens too, so you didn't have to be in people's faces so much. But I turned the corner on that, and now I only shoot with the SLR, just because the lens is the lens that makes the image beautiful, and you can get that depth of field and all of that kind of stuff. And then I finally figured out how comfortably for me I can handle the camera so it's not shaky. And then the other thing is that now these cameras, including your cell phone, they have such fantastic image stabilizers. GoPro 6 has such good image stabilizers in it. I don't know if you guys have seen gimbals. They're like machines, and it's like Steadicam. You used to have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to have a Steadicam operator, have a camera that was just like perfectly balanced anywhere. And I have one of those. But now there's cameras that, and they compare them, you can just walk around. They have, the stabilization is so incredible. The amount of information that's capturing is so fantastic that it's got an internal gimbal, let's call it. And so that means you can do a lot of nice moving shots. We could go for a walk and somebody's talking, and it's like you're walking with your person and talking, and you just have that, you can, people are totally comfortable. It's like when you walk with somebody and you're talking and you can express yourself. It's just so much nicer than that time when, you have somebody sit down, you have them plopped into, you have some lights on, and you're on a tripod and all of that kind of stuff, like the same kind of things that your students ran into. That kind of creating a set that you're trying to make invisible in the film, that you don't want people to know really that you're filming. It's this fiction that this person is talking to you, the audience. And like most of the time, people don't want to have themselves in it. So, but what I find with the, like these, you can be there, but you've got to be a bit closer. You got to be more intimate, and then it just doesn't, it gets away that barrier, and that's the most important thing. And then learning how to use these cameras, that is it's up to you. Like, the only way to really learn how to shoot is to get your camera and go out and shoot stuff, and try to get any kind of interesting angle, and it's work. Like, sometimes camera people are like, they're lazy. They don't want to make their tripod go lower. They don't want to get a low shot. They're just going to always be at their height, whatever their height is. So if they're filming somebody who's short, then they're kind of looking down on them. Or if you're short like me and you're filming somebody and you're always looking up at everybody, that's going to affect kind of what you're expressing. So just to go back to my original point about, getting a camera and how to know how to use it. When I get a new camera, what I try to do is just go through the manual, try all the things, try all the settings, try to figure it out. And then another really useful thing is to plug your camera, because all these cameras can plug into like a monitor, your TV set. And then you can just go through with the manual all of the different settings in it. And cameras come with like a whole bunch of like stupid things that you're never ever going to use. Like this camera, you can do like cheesy dissolves and edits, like as if you're shooting and gonna edit in the camera. It can do titles. It can do all kinds of weird things.
Which was really helpful in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s when you didn't have like, you know, you had to do video tape to tape editing. So if you could, you know, do your cuts almost in the camera. However, there's something really to be said about the discipline of shooting in an expensive mode like our medium, like film. We just finished a film. And we ended up, after 5 days of shooting, long hours, we had 2 hours of film. 2 hours, that's it. 5 days of shooting. If I was shooting with a video camera, we would have 50 hours, you know, or maybe not that much, but anyway, you would have like so much material. So because film is expensive, we have to pay for every foot that we're transferring. So we planned everything. We had, you know, this was a drama too, right? It's not like people didn't shoot documentaries. I shot a feature-length documentary on film, and I think I ended up with 12 hours of footage, which is completely, you know, there is no video film that would ever only have 12 hours of footage and end up being a feature-length documentary. But I think the discipline of that and thinking of that is really good. And one of the things that helps you be a better camera person is learn to be an editor. Even if it's just the most simple, is because if you have to edit your really crummy camera work, or you have to work really hard in post-production, you can't really fix it. Say you were, you know, you did an interview and okay, so there's Keegan, and I did this shot of him, right? And you see, like, there's something weird about this shot. Like, okay, so even like that. So what do you think is weird about this shot? What's kind of ugly about it?
Your laptop's kind of blocking your view.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry.
The beard's growing, that's why.
Yeah, it's the beard. You know, there's someone. Okay, so
He's not really the focus.
well, like you don't really know who the focus is in this, right? It's a bit messy. You know, there's a half a Sandy over there, and then the other thing is like this shot here is like, it's like he's being cut off. His head's been cut off. But if I zoom out, you know, it's just there's like, this is not a good shot. First of all, what we call is like headroom, right? So I mean, if I was doing this shot, I would sort of like shoot it over here, right? So like, you don't want them glued to the top of your frame. You want to have like a little bit of breathing room. You don't want to have them like exactly in the center, because that might be actually that's not a bad shot, because there's like 4 people and they're kind of stacked in there. But this is just the kind of sensitivity. Like what's wrong with this shot?
Half the head's cut off too, I guess.
And there's a shoulder in the frame.
Yeah, and so anyway, so like, to me, I like this. I don't like having people exactly in the center. I tend to shoot a lot of my stuff so that it's a little bit off. And then if I was doing an interview, I would want to have my interview person fairly close to the lens. And so then it looks like, then later when you're watching this interview, then it's like he's looking at the audience more. But if he was looking over at Sandy, and Sandy was asking him questions, then you just feel like you're separated
Like the
from your
4 points of
subject,
photography?
right?
Like the 4 points of photography, like most cameras will have like the dots on it. Do you know? So if you draw a grid, that's
The rule of thirds.
yeah, the rule of thirds. That's it.
Yeah, so right now your eyes are in like the 2/3 up,
Can you
right?
turn your grid on? Your LCD screen grid?
I don't know.
'Cause that-
I never do a grid thing. but-
No, it's just for the
Okay,
rule,
yeah,
just
sure.
for the rule of thirds.
Is there a grid
Yeah,
on
there's
that?
a
every
little
camera has
block thing that even pops up for you.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes a little,
Wow.
yeah, no, this is like a camera with, are you guys seeing all the thing? And it's a touch screen and it's not very intuitive. It's like when you need to format the card, you can't remember which of these like 100 things, and then it's not really easy to manipulate. And that's why the most important thing is, if you have a camera and you've never used it before, like, for heaven's sake, don't go out on this shoot that you've planned, that you've got this person, they're only going to talk to you this one time, or this event is only going to happen one time. Don't go with a camera you don't know. Even if you have a worse camera, much better to use a piece of equipment that you're comfortable with and that you that you're going to be able to be confident that you're going to be able to record something and you're going to have that to use, because there's no going back. The other thing is with these DSLRs, like the reason that in the past I always used like a video camera of different.
Oh, come on, we were perfect.
There you go. Okay, of different proportions. Yeah. Okay. So do you want to explain this?
Yeah, so the rule of thirds, it's on this screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just basic compositional technique. You generally want the focal point for the viewer to be at the intersection of the lines. So here, 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 and here. So this is framed. So we have Skylar and Adrian.
There. Okay. So I did it so that you could see.
Right. Right, so here, if like Ron was saying something really mean from the back of the room, it would be a great shot. He's sort of in focus, and we could get reactions from the people sitting in front of him. But yeah, so like if the action point is here, you know, this is how people look at a telephone. Strange about your tripod mount is.
No, it's a pretty, like, this isn't, you gotta loosen it. This isn't, is this it for panning?
I
Yeah,
think-
that's panning, and this is, this must be tilt.
There's just something wobbly on there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
The whole head is
Like this
is
thing
a
here,
wobble.
this
You
is,
got-
Yeah, I think
this needs to be tightened. Yeah.
this
I couldn't figure it out yesterday.
Yeah, this
I
is
would
like a weird little,
Ignore that.
We won't do it for
brand new
now.
tripod, but
Yeah.
that was really compact. But so, speaking of tripods, so if you have like a really good tripod that's gonna have like a really nice fluid head, then that's really great. And I do recommend trying to use a tripod, or what I've been using now more and more is this monopod. It's got little legs, and this is like, for me, cat's meow. But you know, there's like basic framing, and you can first of all, you know, so we've got Sandy, that's nice, the rule of thirds. You know, sometimes like there's the whole kind of see, now this is, you know, we're following the rule of thirds, but you know, her head is glued to the top of the screen, so that's not very nice. Now, if you understand kind of like the rules of aesthetics, then of course you can break them. You know, that it's just like all artists. Like, first you need to sort of understand what the basic grammar of images that people know and expect, and then once you're confident with that, if you want to break that and make people feel uncomfortable or for a specific reason, then of course you can break all those rules. But I advise the first thing you should do is when you're, you know, starting to go out and film an event and everything, is try to do everything as conservatively that you're going to make sure you get actual material. So just practicing, learning how to frame, and you can have it on a monitor and see what it looks like, or you can you know, just shoot some stuff and then you look at it afterwards and say what, you know, how does that look? And we've all watched so many movies and films and everything, we kind of know what looks nice in terms of framing. One thing that I think that people got in habit with these video cameras is because they have such great zooms that people would zoom in and they'd just get all these super tight shots. And that became like a TV thing. You know, people used to go out to the movies and you watched it on a big screen. And you want to see like the whole environment, you see the whole house and everything. But people started doing more and more TV, and you'll see that TV, and especially once you get like people with phones or whatever, everybody is just like so in your face. It's just like, and if you're watching stuff on a tiny screen, you don't really want, those big shots don't translate as much. You might not know what's really happening. So, but when people, the advent of these cameras would have like really great zooms, you could be here and like, I'm pretty far from Sandy, but like that's how tight I can get on this shot. So it gave a whole new aesthetic, like especially for documentary filmmaking, that so your subject wouldn't realize that you were like in there, almost up their nostril when they're talking and being emotional, and it's, you know, like these are all kind of things, and the tendency is to want to be in really close. That's the tendency, and these are just kind of like it relates to not just an aesthetic but the ethical thing too. And
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that if you're shooting everything, then you're making a film about nothing, right? So this is all about decision making. So whether it's camera operation or editing, what you're doing is making thousands, hundreds of thousands of decisions for a single project.
Yeah.
And most of them you may not even be conscious of, but I think it's important to try to foreground, especially in doing camera work, those decision points. So if you're going to zoom, have a reason. And the reason should always be connected to the story. And you may not know what the grand story is, but the story of that moment, that interaction between two people. You know, if it's, you know, a wrestler putting on knee pads, are you going to have a wide shot, or are you going to have a medium shot or a close shot? Are you going to start wide and zoom in to close? And when you're in that moment, you should not just be doing it because, oh, I just remembered I have a zoom toggle. So I'm going to hit my rocker arm and zoom in. But rather, okay, yeah, I really need to zoom because that's going to propel the story, because the tension is mounting for this next bout, and the zoom, I think, is going to get me there. It's going to help to move this along. Same with camera angle, where you position yourself in the room, how you compose a shot. Do you have a ton of negative space with the person framed in the lower left intersection of fields? And if so, why? Why are you showing all of this negative space, which is a really unconventional thing to do? But I think trying to, when you, especially like in the early days of doing camera work, foregrounding those decisions, because the impulse when you first start shooting is like, first of all, I'm going to shoot everything, and just like, then I'm going to do a bunch of pans, I'm going to do some tilts, and then I'm going to like zoom in, and it just can be too much. It's very difficult to edit that kind of material, and so I screw up all the time in my own camera work, and I'm still screwing up, but I think that it's important to just keep reminding yourself that unless there's a reason to change for the sake of advancing the story or getting the footage that you need to tell the story, don't change what you're doing. Stay where you are. Don't change the angle. Don't change the focal length. Stay where you are. And also follow the beats of the scene. Like when a conversation is happening, don't start zooming in. Like, okay, no, wait till there's a breaking point in that conversation when the awkward pause hits or a person leaves the room. It's kind of just following the beats of an episode that's playing out in real life, and let your camera work be dictated by the natural flow of that scene. It'll seem so much more organic if that's what you do. And what I showed you last night, you see that I got impatient and zoomed a few times, and I'm super annoyed with myself for having done it, and I wish I hadn't done it, but I did it. So I think you'll always make those mistakes. And I think the other thing I'll say is camera movement, which is tied to this same, like, make decisions, know why you're making them as best you can. Make sure that those decisions are connected to the story that's unfolding before you in that moment. That's going to be the best camera work you'll do. The best camera work is camera work that's unnoticed. Same with edits, which is why, like, I'm really against all those crazy, like, barn door edits and swirling star edits or transitions that you can put into, like, editing. Yeah, the swipes and sparkles and confetti flying. But, you know, the camera work that's best is, I mean, there's a really great quote from an observational / verite filmmaker, and those are two different genres, but Jean Rouch and Raymond Depardieu worked together, and Raymond Depardieu always said, always shoot delicately, even the most gruesome scenes. So shoot delicately, shoot conservatively, shoot in a minimalistic way. The other thing is that I have the Osmo, the gimbal stabilized cameras, and I have, like, the dollies and jibs and all of this stuff, and it's really sexy now to have cameras moving all the time. And I can't watch anything produced in the last year and a half without seeing an abundance of the camera moving. The camera's moving this way, the camera's moving in, the camera's moving up. It's like constant movement. I'm like, what the hell is happening? Why is this camera moving so much? It's not tied to the narrative. And again, so if you're going to move the camera in a way that's artful, make sure that it's not just for the sake of being artful, that there is a reason, that it's advancing some character development or story development. Those are the only two reasons I can think to do anything: character development or story development.
But that's why, like, people start on projects. They're going to make this thing. They got and lots of people come and they've got like 50 hours.
Question.
Oh, sorry.
I was wondering, when you were talking about having the person that's being interviewed looking into the camera, then can you explain logistically where you, as the camera person, or maybe where the interviewer stands,
right,
in order to make that happen?
Yeah. Okay, so most people, but like one of the, okay, so most people, if you have like if you're the camera person and you have the director, I would have the director as close to the lens as possible, but I would never ask the subject to be talking to the lens of the camera, because that just looks like an infomercial. Unless you're Errol Morris. Errol Morris, he's like one of the greatest documentary filmmakers of all time, and he made a film called Fog of War. I highly recommend it to anyone, because it's got animation in it, it's got the most incredible use of music. And Fog of War is one guy, Robert McNamara, and he has this thing, he called it the something-a-tron, anyway, so he has a camera, his film camera, video camera, you'll find it, and he has a teleprompter in front. Teleprompter is like all those people reading the news, and they're never looking down. They're just they're reading. There's a glass in front of the camera, and they can see all of the words, and they just read them, and then they're looking right at you. So Errol Morris has a camera on himself, and he's got a teleprompter in front of him, and he's got his subjects. The feed from the camera that's filming his subject is going into his camera, so he is looking at him, and his subject is looking at Errol Morris. He's not looking at the camera lens, he's looking at Errol Morris, and it's really remarkable because he's really talking to you, the audience. That's who he's looking at. Okay, so that's the whole thing of, do it by the old school method until you are comfortable enough and you know why I think he developed this whole thing. He developed this whole in Terratron because he did a film about a guy who was wrongfully convicted he was a murderer, and I think he was on death row, and he wanted to tell this guy's story, and he got him off because he proved that this guy was innocent. And I guess because he wanted to, have that person, really be telling their story directly to the audience to convince them, then he developed this technique. So anyway, I would just recommend watching any of his films because his use of like animation and graphics and archival and everything is, and there's a TV series on Netflix right now that he's doing. Anyway, so, but generally you have your director who's asking the questions, sitting as close to the lens as possible, like so they're not in the way, and then the eye line will be good. And then there's like as Greg said, there's like 100 other decisions.
Yeah.
Then I also say for in the beginning, this is why I keep going back to the thing that's made me a good camera person is because I started as an editor and I saw all the camera work and everything. And I got to help learn by editing great cinematographers' work. And then I, started editing some of my own work. And man, you really learn stuff. And as an editor, the most important thing, the most frustrating thing is if you're shooting stuff and you think you got it, it's like time is like slowed down in your brain when you're shooting. You think you're holding on something for like 2 seconds and I got that, and then you go over here, I got that, and like I like to shoot to be able to edit a sequence so that I could say I was filming this event, and then so I would shoot the person who's talking, and then I want to get a lot of cutaways so I get pictures, shots of everybody listening, and then, Keegan's not paying attention, so the shot of him is no good. And then, Dale is like looking bored, and so that shot's no good. And so anyways,
or it is good depending on the story you're trying to tell.
Yeah, exactly. You're like somebody's running off at the mouth. And then, but it's amazing how often you just didn't wait. Or like you didn't work hard enough to make sure you feel like you're filming and filming and filming, but in the end you get into the editing room, there's only 3 people who are reacting that in a usable way that you can use as a cutaway. Because the person who's at the front that you were filming was blathering on and on and on and on, and you want to cut that out, and you need to cover it up, that jump cut, the cut between when I said this and then when I jumped 2 minutes later and said something finally interesting, you want to cover that over with Nathan. He's like really paying attention, and I got that shot of Nathan, but I decided to zoom in, and or I decided to pan over to Shirley and chain rack focus onto Shirley, but then she wasn't paying attention, so then I can't use that shot. So it's like you're gathering up useful images. You want to first of all get your content. Don't be focused on anything else. Get the main, go for the money shot. That you got to go for the money shot first and get it as best you can, and try to resist zooming in and garden hosing. That's another one. I've edited other people's footage and they're like, garden hosing, it's like the garden hose, like they just can't, and they think they're getting stuff like, Nathan, he was good, okay, Alyssa, yeah, she's got a good reaction, she's smiling, okay, going over here. And if you're the editor and you're tortured to have to sit through that and look for the 1 second of usable footage, you will learn everything you need to know about, you know, just calmly trying to shoot, and also not to be lazy, because there's lots of camera people who they think they got it, and they didn't, and or you know they want to they think they've covered it, but there's never enough. Yeah.
I have just my own experience. I used for one or two of my projects, I just used primary lenses.
Right.
Primary fixed lens, so it means like it doesn't have zoom. So if I want to move somewhere, some close up, I have to move physically. So that like putting restriction on myself, it helped my photography or my project in that sense.
Yeah.
So that's another technique too.
Well, that's what I like to work with a guy named Damien Gilbert. He's just like, you know, he's turned into a really wonderful cinematographer, and he's a photographer. And I would use this big Canon that had a great zoom lens, and I always had the rocker on automatic, and every time he would use that camera, he turned it off. Like and then I'd like man, I don't know where that button is to turn on my, because I was so used to using the electronic zoom. I use it because I like to zoom in and get my focus that way, because I always use manual focus, which I highly recommend. And if you can learn and get comfortable so you can be speedy to use manual, you know, in my very first years, I just shot everything on, like, in terms of iris and color and all that kind of stuff, on automatic, white balance and stuff, just so that I could get the moment, but always manual focus. And then finally I got enough confidence and enough sort of knowledge to be able to fully function on manual. But it takes a certain amount of confidence and practice before you can do that. So, but the most important thing is practice, and then editing your own material. You don't, you know, just if you shoot for an hour, and my exercise as an editor, the first process I have is I digitize it in, I put all my shots on one big long timeline, put them all together, and all I do is I go through and I cut out, in, out, delete, in, out, delete, in, out, delete, and then I have a timeline that was like 1 hour of shooting, and I only have 20 minutes of usable footage, and then I never have to look at all my other stuff. And then also, if I'm going to like try to you know, get the main event, and then I want to get as many things as I can think of that I could possibly use to help condense that story, or just give like you had some great cutaways which were so nice, which were the poetry that was on the wall. Those things are golden. If you hadn't got any of those kind of shots, those little detail-y things,
and you'll never have enough of those.
And you will never have enough of those. Yeah, and because you've been filming, you're exhausted, and it's like that. You know, your director is like, okay, we're out of here, let's go, and it's like, no, I got to get these things because I'm the editor. I know I will deeply regret it if I didn't get like this static shot and that static shot, and just a setup and little detail things as much as I can. And then I put it in that timeline, I clean out all the bad stuff, and the occasional time where you forgot, like instead of setting up the camera and getting the shot and then hitting record, you were recording when you're setting up the camera, and then you turn the camera off. That has happened occasionally. So, but I've worked with lots of camera people who never edit their material, and they're not good camera people. Like, they're good, but they're sloppy. There's all kinds of stuff, and they don't work hard. They don't work hard at getting those extra things that you need. So anyway, I was just going to show you my latest camera. So just to reiterate, now there is a YouTube video on every camera and on specific things. You want to learn how to do time lapse, nighttime shots on your camera. You want to learn how to film the stars and the moon, or you want to learn how to film time lapse or anything. There's a YouTube video on it. So you don't need to like go through the whole manual, but just get comfortable with it, do some tests, and testing is the best thing. And then if you want to learn something specific, then there's somebody on YouTube that will tell you where the menu thing is on
And the
your,
younger that
on your-
person is, the better that tutorial will be.
Yeah.
Because it'll be short.
It'll be like 3 minutes, and they'll say, this is how you do manual focus on this Canon 5D, and here's a tip on this. And so this is my new favorite camera, and this is the 360 camera. So a few of you have already seen it, right? But it's got a lens here and a lens here, and basically, I'll just turn it on, and I had to turn my phone off. But this camera is, this is like, where did I put my phone? Oh, there it is. This camera came out last September, and but before that, this Israeli filmmaker who had come to the very first Bay Street Film Festival came here and showed us. He brought a Gear VR and a Samsung phone, and he showed us like 360, and we put that Gear VR on Keegan, and that was like one of the most exciting moments. He just, yeah.
I don't think I have the video though, but it's, oh man, it was definitely, it was the first time seeing that I've seen it for the first time, and I just thought it was amazing because it was a Cirque du Soleil show, and it was also one of the most bizarrest shows ever, but my God, it was amazing.
It was, and now if you haven't seen it, but you can go on, or maybe you can put a 360 video on here. If you just go YouTube 360. So YouTube, Facebook, they all have 360 now, and you can watch it on your phone. And you can, okay, so I'm just gonna,
There's a panoramic on your phone because I want to try to get the best shots as possible, but I see some people were.
Remember when we did that one on Bay Street and there was a guy sitting on the bench?
Yeah.
But it was so.
So, GoPro, even if you get the like GoPro 6 or the old,
Logo Maker, you can create a
the old ones that we have, anyway, actually if you, yeah. So you see how you can just watch anything. So there's tons of like, there's documentaries, there's shows, there's games obviously, and all that. And you can, on your phone, oops, this thing's gonna die a bit, but.
Say hello to one of the largest cats on the planet. Some adult male tigers can weigh up to 650 pounds. One swipe of that powerful paw can crush a buffalo skull.
You're looking around like that.
These tigers are used to me and my cameras, so you'll get to see some amazing behavior today. No two tigers are alike. Their
Yeah.
stripes are as unique as our fingerprints.
So you can go down, you can look up, you can look all around.
By their stripe patterns.
So, okay,
They
so
even have stripes.
here's, so this camera, okay, so here is the, this camera, it's filming all of us. It's filming the ceiling, it's filming the ground. If you look down, you look, and then, you know, in here you can, you know, look all around. And it's stitching it just in this little software. And really when I hit record, it will record it on 2 different flash cards. And then you bring those into the computer, and then now GoPro has bought the same software that we had to buy. And so now it's free, this stitching software, but only for for their codec. I'm sure you could cheat it, but and then you can do all kinds of stuff like Tiny World, where you've seen some of these pictures where it's like they make it into like a tiny world and you can see everything in there. So oh yeah, it all depends on how you can turn it. Anyway, so this is a lot of fun. We had a 360 workshop, and you can take the camera it comes with this handy dandy little tripod, and then you can walk around with the stick. It's got really good stabilization in it. You can also with any kind of GoPro adapter, then you could put it on any kind of tripod. That's what I prefer, but I gave my little adapter to Nadine for her shoot that she's doing with a GoPro 5. But the coolest thing about this camera is that it's like an invisible camera. And so, and it's 5.2K. So if I wanted to like film a little scene, it's me and Dale talking, and Dale's here and I'm here, okay? And so we film it, we have our conversation. Then later I can take that footage, which is filming everybody and all around us, and then I can put it in the software and I can turn it into standard def, like 1080 by 1920 by 1080, right? Your widescreen shot. And so then it would just be, and it's wherever you want to put your camera. So it's like a camera in the camera. So then I can I start on Dale, he tells me something, and then I can cut and I can flip the camera around and it's shooting me reacting. So then we could just do like a whole edited discourse talking, right? Or we could be, we've got Dale in frame, and then the camera can like pan all the way around and then it's shooting me. So it's like having an invisible camera because it's so small. And then the only thing that you see at the end, like this would film every single thing here, and the only thing you'd see is this little tripod at the bottom. But there's all kinds of easy ways of just getting rid of that. So all you would do is you go into Photoshop and you do a little thing, simple thing, and then you cover it up with blue, and it's like a floating invisible camera. And I've just tried it in all kinds of different situations. And then when I show you the projection mapping installation I did, I took all my 360 footage that I had been shooting all these different places, and I made like a traditional video, except for I projected it in two pieces on 2 pieces of opaque paper, rear projection. So they look kind of like, anyway, you'll see it. But anyways, this is just it's a gadget. But VR, and it's a tool, and I'm kind of learning how to use it for an unobtrusive kind of camera. Like I could imagine that this, like, say you were doing your same project, and you wanted to be, so you have like all the activity in the room, and it doesn't mean that people are going to watch it in VR. The problem with VR is very sort of solitary right now, for the most part, because you can only have one person making the decision to where to look. And then that causes all kinds of problems in the narrative. What if you don't want people to, pay attention to what Robin's doing over there, but you really just want them to be looking in this direction? And then you cut to another scene, and anyway, so there's all that kind of problematic. But it's really fun to do tests and experiment with this. But I could see, like in Abandonminium, if this was in the room and you just left, because no matter how well you know them, how well they know there's a camera there and you were there. And, you know, maybe they were like in that moment, especially when they're, you know, injecting themselves, that they were pretty well oblivious to you, obviously. And that's the power of that scene. But lots of other times, there's, this I think could be a really powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
And also you could hang it upside down. You can, and it'll flip.
So with this technology, then render the cameraman totally like.
That's what I was thinking. Like, you know, everything that you set up until the last point, basically, it's, you know, because you can do everything in editing. Then you can frame your shots, and you know, once you import this into, let's say, whatever software you're using, then you can choose how to pan, how to zoom, how to.
Yeah. Well, it's true. That is absolutely true. But nothing is going to replace your intuition and your communication with the person. And some of the most powerful films, like I remember when all of a sudden this revolution of people had their own home video cameras, but it was high enough quality that you could actually, the National Film Board of Canada quit using film because they gave the directors these handy cams, and instead of having to go in with the crew, with the cinematographer and the sound guy and a lighting guy, all of a sudden the director could go in, and it was like going back to the earliest days of when 16 millimeter made film portable, and it would be two guys, sound person and a camera. All of a sudden, the director could go on their own and have the most intimate relationship. And one of the coolest films that I ever got the privilege to edit was this GoPro turn off. That's the other thing, voice control.
Listens to you.
And you could stream it and all the rest of it. Anyway, but this film is called The True Story of Linda M. So this filmmaker, Norma Bailey, who's now directing Outlander, anyway, she's Manitoban, she made a documentary called Nose and Tina. And it was about this woman, Tina, she's a prostitute, and her boyfriend, Nose, who worked in the railway. And she made this really nice film about this couple, even though it was a really rough life for Tina as a prostitute. But it was about this relationship, loving relationship between this couple. 15 years later, 20 years later, Tina came to Norma, and she had kept in touch with her and everything. And she said, listen, I'm, coming out of addiction. I'm coming out of terrible place. I want to get my life back. I want to get my kids back. I want you to document my road to sobriety and path away from addiction. So she did. And the first day she filmed her with the full film crew and everything. Tina coming home, whose real name is Linda. And Linda coming home to her kids. Her partner is there. He's getting totally drunk. And it's like one of those great cinema verite, but the whole crew is there. Then, over 2 years, Norma had the little video camera. And so she just went over and she would talk to her. And Norma, actually the film begins with Norma in the car and Tina's sitting in the seat next to her, and Norma's like, I don't know how to use this stupid camera. I'm zooming in right on your face and whatever. And then Tina, because it's just like we're so used to it now, she just tells her how she's feeling at this very moment. And the difference between that video handycam and hearing Norma's voice talking to her, so that there's no pretense that Norma is not helping Tina, telling this story. And it was a radical departure, and it's one of the most powerful films. Then they gave the camera to Tina, or to Linda, and Linda, she used it as a diary cam. So oh man, I edited that. She loved that diary cam. She would sometimes sing for 3 hours just into the camera. And but this story is so dramatic, and in the end, it's a feature film. And she's a First Nations woman who went from, life on the streets to really totally trying to buck all of the odds and make it. and she didn't. And they followed her for 2 years, but it was like complete intimacy. So to me, that's the thing. That's the camera. These small SLRs and the small handy cams and everything is a way of taking away the barrier and taking away that, you know, so that you can make the kind of films that Greg makes and that intimacy. But so that you don't want people to like throw up, you have to just have some, you know, do that delicate touch, like you said, like gently, you know, try not to get too excited. Because I don't know if you guys, well, you guys are too young, but anyway, when when those handheld small cameras came into being, and they came into being in a professional thing too, then we had the MTV, Much Music, kind of, everybody was going handheld. And it was like shaky cam was the way to show authenticity. Like, and so, you know, like the camera guy would be like this, and you swing over here and then there, and then you're going like that. And so that's kind of, you know, these are the eras of
and
shooting.
Also in the early 2000s, with film, like people, there was a thing where everything was out of focus because they wanted to make it more
gritty and
or just giving people headaches.
Right. Well, there's this kind of thing of authenticity that, you know, like this sort of rough shooting gives you authenticity. I think it just can make you nauseous sometimes, but sometimes it's more important to be at the moment, get the moment. And sometimes even the worst shot, kind of like event or something, could be the most powerful. And there's all kinds of things that have changed, you know, the course of, you know, world politics and everything because of somebody being there with the camera at that moment and capturing actuality. You know, that's the definition that John Grierson gave to documentary, was the creative treatment of actuality. So, and lots of people think actuality, like filming what's happening in front of them, that means that it's truthful. But I think the most important word is creative treatment, because every time you put a lens and you circumscribe what you're seeing, then you're creating a fiction. And so if you are going to create a fiction, you know, you should do it with a truthful intention, and but also not try to pretend that you're only showing the truth. You're only showing your truth or your interpretation of it. So anyway, but that, for me, that's the, if anybody has any other questions for Greg or me or Keegan, who's been shooting lots.
I would suggest something, make sure you check your white balance because that can happen a lot, because I do a lot of photography like at different locations, whether I'm shooting indoors or outdoors, and when I'm taking still photography, there was one day where I was taking pictures inside, and then all of a sudden I go outside and everything looked completely blue too as well, because I had to change it immediately. I forgot to change the white balance, so that was just that's the one rule to check is white balance. It's to have the natural colors and also for both interior and exterior.
They're different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And well, I mean, I always tend to always put white balance on automatic. That's something that I always just go on automatic, because the cameras are like really well set. I know you're more versed with that. And the other thing is, I mean, we'll talk about this with sound, but you know, it's the same thing. It's like monitoring, looking at your work, playing it back. And when you film something, you've got somebody, you've taken up their time, you've done this whole interview, you know, like before you pack up, make sure that you got it.
That's another thing. Like if everyone's gonna have their own cameras. Certain cameras have like cutout times for recording.
Yeah.
Like my camera cuts out at 1950. So like be aware of your camera's cutout time because
Yeah.
you don't want to be filming an interview or something.
Yeah.
but
This one, yeah.
Something that's happened that like, well, something that's never happened, let's say, is that sometimes, I record a lot of audio, sometimes you forget to actually hit record, and they start doing their take, and they just did like a 2-minute take, and then you say, well, you lie to them, and you say, oh, maybe let's just try that one more time.
But at least you realized.
Yeah.
I did it.
No, but I
Yeah.
find that you almost always realize after they've done
Yeah.
the take.
But
it happens, like,
yeah.
you know, it's a long day.
No, I worked with a cameraman and we were in India, and you know, it was a lot of expense going over there. And we had this interview with this guy who was like amazing person, MS Swaminathan. He's like the father of the Green Revolution. We have it all set up. We're doing this interview, and I had my little camera, and then he had his. He had the main camera, but I still had I did a lot of extra shooting with the small version, and then back in the editing room, he didn't record like a whole 15 minutes of the interview. He didn't hit record, but then he didn't admit it. So I learned about it because I had been filming it, but my camera wasn't really, you know, all that usable. And but he didn't say that he didn't get it, but he knew. I know for a fact that he knew, and you know, it's better to humiliate yourself and admit that you screwed up, because we all do, all of us. Then the worst thing is.
Sorry, the
Yeah.
humiliation just gets worse the longer you put it off, right?
Yeah, it'll be yeah. That guy actually, we had to fire him, but at the end. But yeah.
So again, I had this experience of because usually I work. I'm the camera person. I'm the sound guy and the director too. So if I had to record the sound separately and the camera, like I have to turn on the camera and press the record button, sometimes I will forget. I will forget even the sound button or the camera. So just remember to check that. And the second thing is about the white balance. White balance is used to have your skin color of human beings as natural as possible. So even if you forget on your camera, don't worry about it too much, because these editing softwares, they are getting better and better. So you can correct it afterwards too. After you shot
Yeah.
it, and it's all
And I you know, I filmed and photographed all my family's weddings. On our wedding, my brother and my dad filmed it, all of it unusable because of white balance. And that was back in the day when you couldn't really fix it. So our entire wedding video is blue. So, but yeah.
That's all.
So, okay, no, but we can't escape. We gotta nail this down. We gotta make our groups, okay? So, we have, we got Nathan's got an idea, and Arlene has an idea, and Muzaffar has an idea, and Rafahad has an idea, and Ruth has an idea, and Sandy has an idea, and Robin has an idea. Okay, so why don't we get
people in Sioux Lookout?
and Sioux Lookout? Oh yeah, okay. Can we go? Can you hook up with them again? I had turned them off. Yeah, and then Sioux Lookout has an idea. Okay, so how should we?
That's 9 different.
Yeah, they have 2 ideas in Sioux Lookout. Okay, so
Form our groups then.
okay, yeah, let's okay, why don't
down some of these ideas because everybody has one.
Well, how many groups
well
do
no,
we
like how many ideas, how many teams do we have, did I say?
10.
10? Okay, so we gotta do 5. So there's a few of you that have gotta either convince other people, or we're gonna, you know, like we're gonna just do, I think 5 is doable, maybe 6.
And then they have like still tomorrow too to think about it.
Yeah, we can still think about it.
Decide about it, talk about it.
And because what I'd like to do is tomorrow, in between the sessions, tomorrow we're gonna do sound, and then we're gonna, hopefully the groups can start doing the planning. Gathering up everything that they need to be able to do it and do all their planning. And then we'll do projection mapping.
If we're having a hard time narrowing it down, maybe like tomorrow, when we begin, we can really quickly do like the pitches again, and then just like have like voting, like everybody can vote like.
Oh yeah.
Like twice or 3 times.
Oh, okay, that's a good idea.
And just pick the top projects.
Okay. I mean, I like it by consensus if we can, but,
So are we supposed to have a finished product to show to everybody on Sunday, or Sunday the last, like, are we meeting up again next week to show? Or is it just like by
It's
yourself?
going to be Sunday, I think, but you can, it doesn't need to be finished product. You can have something like rough cuts or the material that you
But are
gathered.
we just shooting so on Saturday we have to shoot and edit?
no. Okay, so this is the thing. So, you know, any kind of production, the most important thing is, planning first. And then then you have all day Saturday to shoot or start your animation. And then Sunday you have, half the day. And then we're gonna talk a little bit about sharing, and social media and all that kind of stuff. And Marcus was gonna, give us his experience with that. And then we're going to have like a final post-production planning for people who haven't completed their projects. So that there's a timeline, and these are the things that have to be achieved. So, but the most important thing is that we should try to plan our projects so that they are doable, so that maybe there's just a little bit of polishing, but it's just my experience is, let's try to have something that is able to be finished by Sunday.
I think it's important, there's lots of ideas, but some ideas are more concrete than others. So if you have an idea and you don't know how you're going to do it, you really don't have time to work that out. So go with, like, form groups and do things that can be done, that, you know, are just much more concrete. Because you'll still get the experience, you'll still get an opportunity to help make decisions, and it might not be your film or your idea, but the objective is to go through the process and find out what the challenges are, so that after this workshop, when you have a better idea about what you want to do, you'll know how to do it. So people have to be willing to let go a little bit, because we can't do them all, and it's just a question of, you know, think of your idea and how you would do it, but, you know, learn by working on somebody else's project, for instance. That's my perspective. In Sioux Lookout, they've got 2 ideas, they have to decide on one, right? Because it's gotta be doable.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can do the other one, you know, the one that's, you know, more difficult, they can take time and they can do it afterwards. But what can be done if you film just tomorrow?
It's not like your ideas get banished out of existence
Yeah.
or something.
Well, tomorrow we have like 2 hands-on sessions. So as I said, sound and projection mapping. And if you're not too interested in projection mapping, you've got a bit more time for planning. And a full day of shooting is lots. That's all you need. And then if you want to do some follow-up, but if you can really start, you know, figuring out you're going to finish this film on the Sunday, then it's very doable.
And the other thing is, it doesn't need to be a document, it doesn't need to be a fiction film, it doesn't need to be screened like for the screen. You can have an idea for installation, another kind of media like a web project or anything else. You think about those things too. So if your project,
for example, we have a good idea for a stop motion animation, and we have a few other ideas for animation. You can learn how to do one or the other by working on one and producing one and figuring it out.
Animation really does take a team as well.
Yeah.
It can't just be 2 people doing it. You need more, like, it's so tedious, and the more the more people working on it, the better it will turn out, and the quicker it will turn out.
Right.
Too.
Yeah, and also
So
like
if
the more
there's gonna be an
brains.
animation group, there should be 1 or 2.
Right.
Because the more people working on a single thing, the better it's gonna be, and the closer you're gonna actually get to finishing it.
Right. Right. And then, you know, the mentors and that, we can give you advice on how to proceed and whatnot. Okay, so then, okay, well, I like the idea of, you know, tomorrow when we meet again, that we'll try to, you know, everybody think about these ideas and let's say you have an idea but other people aren't interested in it, who would you like to help? So if everybody can have like one person whose idea they would like to help, besides their own, then maybe that's a better way of being able to do consensus. So like if there aren't enough people that are interested in Sandy's thing, which one would you like to help on, right? So, and same for you, Ruth. If there isn't enough people that, so if everybody can reiterate their idea, if they can sharpen it up, and if they can also pick who they would like to team up with. Why don't we work that way? Okay, so then everybody will have at least 2 people that will do it.
One more thing, like I think, did we mention that these projects would also be part of the festival?
Right. So what we would like to do, and this is our fondest wish, is we would like to have a session that's dedicated to these projects that we're going to show at the festival. So then, you know, so everybody can, you know, be there, and then you can invite your family and friends, and you know, so we really want to aim at a finished product. And there's nothing that will impede you from working on it and perfecting it. But if you don't really try to put everything into it in these few short days when you have your whole team, my advice is that don't count on being able to work on it in the summer. Yeah.
I was just thinking, I'd like to start a group for animation. So anybody who's interested in doing an animation, I'll start a group and then we can.
I'm also just thinking, like, maybe it would be better if we actually just figured out the ideas today, because if we're bringing in equipment, we can start practicing and learning our equipment for tomorrow, so that Saturday we don't have to learn our equipment, we already kind of know what we're using. So that Saturday's actually just like a full shoot day, and like, you know what I mean? Cause like if I'm working with a group and I'm bringing the camera and nobody's used my camera, I don't want to have to like them to learn it on Saturday. So I'd rather figure out our ideas and what equipment we should be bringing in, so that tomorrow we can actually bring it in and sit down either before we meet up all together or afterwards.
Okay, well, I think that's a good, valid point and good advice. Okay, so let's hear from, if someone didn't want to do your project, whose project would you like to do? Okay, whose project would you like to work on? Okay, so Muzaffar, who would you, if someone didn't want to do your project, which of these projects would you be interested in working on?
Not sure at the moment, need more time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Arlene, do you have?
Yeah, we were thinking, we've just been talking a little bit about that melon idea and just some.
No, but if no one wants to help you make your melon idea, whose project would you like to work
Over there
with?
with the animation and do some sketches of characters. And
With Robin?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. We already have kind of like a team, and then you guys can hash out what idea you're gonna work on, right? Okay, so, Shirley.
I'll work on his.
Okay, excellent. And Nathan, it seems like you have a lot of people that want to work on your project, so I think you're pretty well guaranteed there. Dale, and you want to work with Nathan for sure? Yeah.
Really interested.
Okay, so you got your one-person team, okay?
Oh, I want to be on Nathan's team too. Like,
Okay.
I've already.
Yeah, no, that's okay, because,
Already has it.
yeah, no, we're not worried about that.
Yeah.
It's that, it's the people that have ideas and to see if they
Well,
are.
how big do you want each team also? Is
No,
it-
If that team's too big, I can.
Well, I was just saying, well, like, no, but like, if that
Well,
means
let's-
maybe another person could do another thing.
No, but that's why we're looking at the other teams.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, so Ruth, if there aren't enough people that wanna work on your idea, what idea appeals to you?
The martial arts and
Okay, and Sandy, what about you?
I think I'll go animation.
Okay. And, okay, is there anyone, okay, and Sue Lookout,
Yeah, came too.
okay. Well, there could be two animation groups, but if someone didn't want to work on your stop motion, which group would you like to, what idea would you like to work on?
I still need a bit time figuring out
Okay,
what group, like, what idea it's interested in.
yeah, okay. Okay, fair enough. But we have at least, we got two groups. We have,
I think there's 3 groups, 2 animation groups and.
okay, two,
Didn't a few people want to do the library idea?
yeah, no, well, we haven't heard from, okay. Could you hear all of us?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so, what idea are you guys going with?
Well, considering I'm the only one here right now.
Then we're going with your idea.
Sean left earlier.
Okay.
And Lane, I know Lane and I yesterday discussed that we would do the library.
Okay. Awesome.
Sean will be back tomorrow, but that's about as far as I know.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And is there anybody from here who would be interested on trying to do something long distance?
I liked that library idea, but I don't know how it would work long distance.
Well, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Lane's watching as well from home.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, great. So you guys are going with that idea, so that's good. Okay, so I think that we have at least 3 groups here, and we got the one group in Sioux Lookout. I think, personally, I think Nathan's group is like a little bit too big, because I really think it needs to be divided up. Yeah.
Well, how many of us are actually trying to do that? Like, how many? I'm unaware of how big this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody who wants to work on Nathan's team, put their hand up. Okay, so that's a good sized group. 4 people is perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone who wants to work on
I think I'll work with the Rafahat's idea,
okay, stop time animation. Okay, perfect. Okay, so you guys are a team, and someone else wants, and Shirley, you want to also work on that team. Okay, so we got a good 3-person team there. Okay.
And if they're doing 2 animations, hers was like passion and grit. I really thought like if someone just wants to play with the idea of emotion, like she's already got like a poem and like dialogue written, like it's a really
Yeah.
good one to go off of for anyone
Yeah.
who's just like unsure of the dialogue already. Like
I
so
think
or
that
to
would be
step
a
forward for someone such a large idea of animation.
yeah. So Sandy and you guys wanted to.
Yeah, we've been talking a little bit about that.
The animation.
Yeah.
And so how about, so you 4, right? So Robin
Yeah.
and Sandy.
No, I don't
Or-
wanna work on that one.
Oh, you don't want to work on that one. Okay, you want to work Robin.
Well, I thought, yeah, that with that project to scratch
Okay.
up some illustrations for her.
Okay.
We've been talking a little bit about the sun and,
Okay, so that's 3 people.
But Keegan's.
And Keegan's gonna help you out. Okay, great. So that's a 4-person team. Okay,
But for the frame by frame, it would be a good dialogue to go off of.
yeah. So, but then, okay, so, and then, so Ruth and Sandy, you guys don't have anyone to go with your ideas unless you guys want to do it together.
I'm here.
And Adrian will help. Okay. So, okay, so we got teams happening.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we got it all worked out.
Can we meet up with our teams now?
Hmm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
equipment tomorrow.
Let's just, group meetings then.
Yeah, okay, let's have like a few minute group meeting and we'll call it a day. Yeah, okay. So we see, oh yeah, sorry. Wait, everybody, wait.
Just Lane's wanting to ask a question. She's actually typing it out right now. Just give me a moment.
Yeah.
Let's just stare at my face for a moment. Oh, it's typing.
You're on like the total big screen.
Okay. If we are shooting in the library and have people in our shots, will we need media release forms since it's showing in a film festival?
No. Media release forms are for broadcasters.
Okay.
And, just ethically, it's always important to let people know that you are filming. And if they're uncomfortable, they don't want to be in the film, then obviously don't film them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't just go in and shoot a bunch of stuff and then ask them later. It's good to just go in and say, hey, are you cool? Can I get a shot of you?
So we have you on video and we're gonna use it, but is that okay?
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, sometimes it's good to ask after, but Have you ever seen those taxi shows where the taxi driver is? And then they tell them at the end that they've been...
Confessions from a Taxi Cab or something like that?
Yeah, that was a great series.